Alright, so this should be coming around the corner any second now. And I'm just going to take a seat. There they are. That's where they were. Back there, just coming around. And we'll watch them in the corner. Somehow this crowd is, well, maybe not the crowd, maybe just the truck. I think we've got more attendance than last year. Oh, man. Yeah, definitely more than last year. I'm going to lose battery any second.
Okay, as we're waiting to get all the other people around the corner, for those of you who came to America's hometown to gaze upon Plymouth Rock and to be where the Pilgrims supposedly stepped ashore, on behalf of the United American Indians of New England, I welcome you. Unfortunately, about 360 some odd years ago, 60, 70 years ago, we did the same thing, and look what we got. But anyway, this is the part of the day that I really enjoy because I can come down here and I can talk about this little pebble that's in this, whatever it is. Because how many of you were when you're in school, if you've never been to Plymouth before, they made this thing sound like it was the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. But this rock has an interesting history, and the first part of the history that I'd like to tell everybody about is, guess what, folks? The Pilgrims did not step anywhere on that rock. That rock existed up in the center of town up until toward the end of the 1800s. And what happened was it became a nuisance. I guess they wanted to put a road in or something, and so some far-thinking person stated, well, why don't we put it down by the waterfront, call it Plymouth Rock, and say this is where the Pilgrims stepped. Now, if the Pilgrims did indeed step on this particular rock, they would have had the longest legs in the world, because it's a long way from here to the center of town. And I also noticed as we were marching down, I looked up the street and I saw a store called Pilgrim's Progress. And you'll never guess what they sell in this particular store. Clothing, of all things. But Pilgrim's Progress, and not one of the mannequins in the window looked like a pilgrim. I didn't see the funny hat with the buckle or the buckle shoes or any of that kind of thing. So I really don't think it has anything to do with the Pilgrims, unless in the back room, if you're known by somebody, you can go in and get a pilgrim outfit. But to the tourists in town, they're taking pictures of Plymouth Rock and the Mayflower. And I want to say something about the Mayflower, too. They don't even know what the boat looked like that they came over on. So that's a reproduction of something. That's a reproduction of something. But National Day of Mourning, this is the 41st year that we have stood on that hill. Those of you who were up there a few minutes ago. 41 times. 41 individual national days of mourning. And over the years, there was a lot of militant protests that went on. In 1994, the Pilgrims had a Pilgrim Progress Parade. And they come down here with their drum and their musket in one hand and the Bible in the other hand. And they go up toward the church. Well, in 1994, United American Indians of New England, we stopped them from going into the church. And one of the things that happened, though, is finally they went into the church. But the church gave us a few minutes before their service so we could speak to the congregation, which we did, and then we went and came down here and had our speak out. In 1995, we buried this thing again. We buried the rock, but I made a miscalculation. We came down in the morning and we looked down and said, oh yeah, there's the rock, and we got the sand and the seaweed and all this kind of stuff. And we came down the hill, and I'm going to jump into the pit and bury the rock. But what I forgot was the tide comes in here. So I'm on my way down into the pit, and I'm going, oh God. And I went splash. But we did bury the rock. And then in 1996, again, the Pilgrim Progress Parade had either started at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we had always had our speak out at noon, but lo and behold, in 1996, at about 12:30 in the afternoon, we hear the drum going, ba-da-boom, 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 and we look down, and they've already started right in the middle of our ceremony, which we had been doing for years. They started their march. Okay. Well, they got right to the top of the hill, where Leiden Street sort of joins the street that goes around the hill, and we let them go by, and then we followed them in a march. Well, they never made it to church that day, and the reason they didn't make it to church that day was they turned and ran back to their little pilgrim house. We shut down the Pilgrim Progress Parade. They were unable to keep that racist, the most horrendous looking thing that I've ever seen in my life. People marching with a musket in one hand and a Bible in the other. What does that tell you about this particular country? And what they have done to the indigenous population, not only in North America, but Central America and South America. And not only did they do it back then, they're still doing it today, but now they're doing it overseas, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan. And they're backing the people